love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team that won, yeah. I hope my team that won, yeah. Man, I hope my team that won, yeah. I hope my team that won, yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Ville, he know what he be talking about. Michael Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee State? You tune into the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Ville, Mike and Charles, knocking time.
This is Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Presented by Amber Slaughter, the project architect. Amber Slaughter, the project architect, where they handle the project planning, project development, project execution, and team management, so you can run your business. Contact Amber Slaughter, the project architect, at www.theprojectarchitect.com to schedule an appointment. That is www.theprojectarchitect.com to schedule an appointment. Welcome and thanks for joining us inside a studio lecture hall, the HBCU Sports Labs, for the only weekly sports talk radio show that is dedicated to exploring the sporting HBCU diaspora, including the marching sport with its unique HBCU cultural identity, the teams, the bands, coaches, athletic directors, commissioners, provosts, presidents, big rivalry matchup, classic games, homecoming events, and much, much more of the HBCU athletic aesthetics. As we emerge our lecture with the sports business practices in the competitive sports industry, the show seeks to provide innovative, progressive, and informative dialogue about the week's HBCU sporting events, issues, and ideas from a fan's perspective. We review the Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as the SWAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, better known as the MEAC, of the NCAA Division I, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC, Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the CIAA at the NCAA Division II level, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, GCAC, of the NAIA, and independent programs such as Tennessee State of the OVC, Hampton, and most recently announced North Carolina A&T of the
Big South.
I feel you on that one. Langston of the Sooner Athletic Conference, as well as Texas College is affiliate member, and Edward Waters as they transition from NAIA to NCAA Division II and memberships in the SIAC. First, before I give you the mic there, Charles, wanted to say thank you for all those that provided me with birthday well wishes yesterday, as I had a birthday. And before we get into it, just in case it gets a little hot out there, I want everybody to know, just so you know.
What we got there? I like that. That's dope. I like that.
You know, before anything gets started, you know, I'm just saying.
I like that.
Be careful.
Nice.
Or you get some of that snapback.
There's a lot of snapback going on right now.
Don't let them degrees fool you. I'm just saying what I say.
Woo.
And I got several degrees to support my framing of the decision. I'm not just going to go off no heart, no feeling. I'm going to give you what you all are asking for, what your information is. I'm going to provide you the data.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I see that decisions at a leadership level are supposed to be made. Now, people may not do that. People may not like it. But when you're in a leadership position, your responsibility is to provide decisions based on data and information.
Sure.
You may have been able to get away with it, not doing it that way, and it may have gotten you to this point. But at some point in your career, if you're in a leadership position, And I'm talking to my students out there and those that are interested in moving in that direction. You need to make sure that you can make your decisions in a certain way that supports the framework of you being able to make those decisions. And decisions should not be made in a vacuum.
Of course.
Now, you can disguise it as if it's not, but decisions should not be made in a vacuum. And that's another way to put yourself in precarious positions. Now, you may have the power to do as you will, but at some point, it will show itself.
Yeah.
Based on the results.
Great point.
May not be very quick. Maybe over the long run. Now, we'll merge ourselves maybe a little more deeper in this conversation, but we will have sporting context in this show. Particularly, we're seeking an interview where we get into some sporting updates. At the end of the show, we'll do our poll rankings so you can see what's going on this week. But what are some of the news of the week before we go in a different direction?
Sure. Let's start off with our players of the week. We'll start in the SWAC Women's Basketball Player of the Week. This will be Jackson State's Amesia Williams. She is the SWAC Women's Basketball Player of the Week. The Gulfport, Mississippi native led Jackson State to a pair of wins over the weekend over Alcorn and Southern. The Lady Tigers have now won 12 straight games. They currently sit in first place in the SWAC with an 11-0 record in league play. And Jackson State's wins over Alcorn. Williams scored 14 points on 7 of 11 shooting. She also had 9 rebounds versus the Lady Braves. She followed that up with a 17-point, 13 rebound, 6 block effort in the Lady Tigers win over Southern. So Amesia Williams, she is your SWAC Women's Player of the Week. On the men's side, Devontae Patterson and Tristan Jarrett, they share SWAC Men's Players of the Week. They are co-players of the week. Patterson posted a 27-point game along with a season-high 14 rebounds in Prairie View's 69-59 win over their arch-rival Texas Southern. Victory that gave the Panthers sole possession of first place in league standings. He shot 10 of 16 from the floor, and he was also a factor on the defensive side with 7 steals and a pair of blocks. Tristan Jarrett for Jackson State, he contributed back-to-back solid outings versus Alcorn and Southern respectively with 24 and 22 points. The Tigers won both contests as they improved to 7-4 in league play. Overall for the week, Jarrett averaged 23 points along with 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal while shooting an impressive 46% from the field. So those are your players of the week in the SWAC. We take a look now at the players of the week in the MEAC, and it was senior guard Leon Red of Bethune Cookman and junior guard Devin Palmer of North Carolina Central. They were selected MEAC co-players of the week. Red led the Wildcats to wins over North Carolina A&T, and Howard over the weekend as he posted averages of 20 points, 4 assists, 3.5 steals, 1.5 rebounds while shooting 51% from the field against the Bison. His type of outing came against Howard when he scored 23 points, made 5 steals, 4 assists. Palmer, the 6'4 junior from Hyde Park, Massachusetts, he led the Eagles with a 2-0 week with wins on the road, impressive wins on the road against Coppin State and Morgan State. He averaged 19 points, 6.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, while shooting a blistering 58% from the field and 72% from behind the three-point arc. Palmer scored 21 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and dished 4 assists against Coppin State, and he hit 4 threes in both contests. So those were your players of the week in the MEAC.
Certainly. What other news do you have of the day?
Sure, let's take a look, and this came out from the SWAC today. The SWAC, they announced the creation of a football officials evaluation committee. The football officials evaluation committee is a broad-based group of constituents, internal and external to the SWAC, that will consist of current league head coaches, football administrators, external professional officiating members, and the SWAC coordinator of officials. This group will provide perspective and insight related to officiating in the conference, in addition to assisting the league with recruiting and development of its officials.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Sounds like
what else you got?
An oversight group there. So,
what else you got?
Well, I think the big news for the week is the North Carolina A&T. They have made a statement that they will be leaving the MEAC for the Big South Conference. That statement came out this past Friday.
I wonder how long you was gonna keep that on the top of your tongue.
I had to get to the current stuff first, and then
that's good. You did do that. But everybody don't want to hear about none of that other
double
stuff.
back around and talk about North Carolina A&T.
Let me get to this.
Come on, Lonnie Shaw, where you at?
Reggie Howe says, I support North Carolina A&T move to the Big South. Blind loyalty is insanity. That's my response to that. Alicia Rusty says, hey guys, hey, leadership matters, most certainly. Michael Lee, what's up guys? I'm here. It's time for HBCUs to step up and start to make HBCUs make money to keep our doors open. Yes, but joining a historically white college will not do that. Let me be point blank with that. Thinking that because something is a white institution that is better and is automatically going to make HBCU survive is foolishness. The only way that you can survive as an institution is if you have good, strong leadership at your institution. You get all key stake players, all the key stakeholders together and on the same page. It's about the same thing I've always said about a winning organization. It's about getting everybody involved in that organization to buy in at the same thing. And just because you go and join a white institution or association doesn't mean you're going to win. That is the biggest piece of misinformation out there, and it's the thing that is insanity for us as a ethnic group. Some people like to say race, but that's a whole nother discussion. But it is a sickness to think just because you join an institution, and if you rank that institution, is even worse. In any measure that you put out there in terms of the Big South Conference, I did this with Hampton, and obviously some of you missed it, and nothing has changed. In fact, Big South has lost members. So to suggest that the Big South is a measurably, the word I'm going to use, measurably better conference than the MEAC is sickness. You need to go check yourself if you think that is. And I'm not holding back today because some of y'all need to hear the truth. Now, usually I let y'all sing and dance, but enough is enough. It's ridiculous. There is nothing wrong with making a decision that is beneficial to an individual or institution, but you need to involve all stakeholders, and you shouldn't be intimidated or about not being able to provide people with information to support your decision. I didn't hear any of that.
That's huge.
All I heard was homilies about how supposedly going to this white space is supposed to be better than the black space you're in. I'll say it again. All I heard was the framework that going to white spaces is better than the black spaces you are in. That is foolishness. Ask for the data to support your framework. If it happens to be the case, great. Make the move. But don't think that you're going to suggest to me anything other than that, because I have done studies. And I'll pull one out so you know. And it was a 100-page study that looked at institutions and key factors. And I'll give you the factors of one framework. Have you done it? And the reason I know this, I've went to different institutions and worked with them. I've fettered around the internet. And when you see institutions, these historically white colleges and institutions that you talk about, when they make a move, in many of the cases, they get all the frameworks and they put data up there so you can review it and show why we are looking at making a decision. And you can take the good with the bad. I haven't seen a report the first at any of our institutions.
Making a decision in a vacuum. Yeah.
Unchecked power is a problem, no question about it. JSU women's basketball, and we see that all over the place at its highest level. Unchecked power is a major problem because unchecked power in most cases believe that there's winners and losers. And you better hope you're on the winning side.
Yes, indeed.
JSU women's basketball is number one. We'll see, Rusty, slow down. We told you back in the show. We talking about this other craziness right now. We're going to get to you. I know you proud. And they undefeated. They should be near the top. We'll see if they found a way to be number one, stay number one, or whatever you want. Reggie's going to chime back in. Schools need to start making money by their brand. Yeah, what does that supposed to mean? So they can't make money by their brand in the SWAC or the MEAC?
Apparently.
I guess not. So the only way you can make money in this country by your brand is if you enjoy white spaces or white institutions. That's what y'all telling me. JSU, Rusty talking about that basketball. She on that back. Diane Weber is watching. Good day, fellas. Yes, big CIAA win for VSU men's basketball last night. That's good. Glad y'all got on some of this other stuff. Wendell Davis, Lana Shaw. I guess I done hit a nerve. All right, Kavil, we started learning.
I was waiting on my Aggies.
Last thing I'll get you. Yeah, my Aggies don't even show up. You know, I was talking. They so mad though, but I done talked to some of the Aggies. Mm-hmm. They didn't even know. Think about this now.
You can't.
The first place that many people were going to find out about North Carolina A&T leaving the MEAC to the Big South, and you supposed to tell me this is great, and the first time people were going to find out essentially was Friday after the board meeting, and they made an announcement. You got all this stuff ready to go with signs ready to go. Nobody knows. The only reason people found out on Thursday is because somebody within the athletic department felt that this needed to be discussed, and they finally decided to let it loose. It's probably because it's the first time they heard about it, and it freaked them out. And so they go to the newspaper. But this is supposed to be a great plan, but you don't want nobody to know until your board reaches vote for it. Man, y'all got to be silly to believe in all this. Come on now. Now, a study I did before to let you know how extensive many of these studies are, and I've seen them at various levels. The study that I did had 13 different characteristics that were measured so an institution could consider what move they need to make. Some of the institutional characteristics were student enrollment, Carnegie classification, athletic donors, athletic budgets, revenue longitudinal, football attendance, and NCAA APR 4-year 2019 characteristics. That was institutional measures. Some of the local measures, what I call local market characteristics outside of the institution, were corporate-based, population, African-American radio market, top 200 television market, age, and household effective buying income. Now, if you put these measures out there and you shape it up from one conference to the other, and you told me that, and I'd be like, okay, I see what you're talking about. But don't tell me something with fluff and dance and then think I'm supposed to understand it.
Yeah.
Lonnie Shaw's agreed Dr. Field leaked to the G-Borough record the day before on Thursday. Now think about that. But you want folks to support you on that. And your alumni, and you talking about you had a little committee to support this measure. And you supposed to be happy because the head person on the committee happened to be a alumni. Man, people don't want to hear that.
Yes.
People don't want to hear that. Now, hopefully, that they can make this right and they can get people on board. But that's a sour taste in people's mind. And again, it's not so much about the decision except for the way you did it and how it comes later.
Making a decision in a vacuum.
But making a decision in a vacuum
Yeah.
is just not good.
Right.
And it's hard to sell it that way.
Right.
Now, we'll come back and revisit this a little bit, but we got a caller on the line. We thought we did. We're going to see if we can get him back. And so while we're waiting on that, we'll get that again.
Here's a question that I guess came up for me is, why do people think that the move to the historically white conference is, the bee's knees, if you will? I mean, what psychologically goes on in your head that it was automatically the right move?
I want to put a pin in that, and we're going to get it back to that. So hold on that, and I think I'll explain it to you.
Sure thing.
As we do this. I think we try to get this going. Ready? This Coach Simmons, Coach Willie Simmons of the Florida A&M University Rattlers. Is that you on the line? Hold on a second. I think we switching over. Get a second. Our interns got a little excited and he got multiple people on the line, so it's throwing them off.
I see the phone line lighting them up.
So let me go back to some of these comments while we work on this next thing. Wendell Davis says, preach, brother. Reggie Now says, great points. Lonnie is watching. And again, I don't want this to affect any of my Aggie fans out there, because there's some proud fans. And like I said, I seen you all really show me a level of pride that I was proud to be associated with HBCUs.
Of course.
Down in Atlanta, you all celebrating your heritage, your culture, your institution in multiple different ways. And so I'm still a fan of the Aggies. I'm not a fan the institutional leadership right now, and all those that were involved with this that didn't think enough of the people to share it.
Right.
I just don't appreciate any of that, and I won't hold back on that. No matter what their titles are supposed to be, regards of that, I can stand on my own measures and merits, if you would. And so I want to make sure that the Aggie fans out there understand you still got a place here. We're going to cover you.
Of course.
And actually, I wish you the best.
Yeah.
But don't think I'm quietly going to support this in any way. So just want to know, do we have Coach Simmons on the line? Yes, Coach Willie Simmons of the Florida A&M University Rattlers. We're going to try this again. Football coach, how you doing, Coach Simmons? Oh, yeah, man. Those folks fired up. Folks want to call in and get up there. A lot going on. But we're going to take it back to the field, or right off the field, as they would say it, is obviously we had signing day this past week. And as you seem to continue to do with the momentum, even more so in the past, I must add, is that you had a top 10 recruiting class as measured by Hero Sports. You had the number 1 HBCU class as measured by Hero Sports, as well as Box to Row. So wanted to bring you on and get you an opportunity to talk a little bit about it. The first question I had before we get into some of those highlighted players that put you in a position to get this type of ranking, but I want to know what goes into your philosophy in terms of recruiting players at the institutions now at FAMU and your institutions in the past, and tell us a little insight of how this comes together, if you would.
Well, I think recruiting is, especially around, it's more so about the evaluation process. Obviously, it's always nice to be recognized for the work that you do or for a class that you want to put together, but it's really all about the evaluation, about identifying the correct type of young man. We all have the positional needs in left field as far as depth, as far as these guys come in and play right away. Obviously, the transfer portal and junior college recruiting is a huge part of what we do. And so there's a strategy that goes into it. And for us here at Florida A&M, we wanted to continue to build this program from the ground up. We didn't want to really invest a lot into transfers, whether it be FBS transfers or junior transfers. We wanted to bring in high school guys who fit our which are young men who come from winning programs, who know what it's like to be in a championship culture, who really become a hustler and learn to be the best player they can be, and graduate from the top notch. And going outside them about the last 3 years. I feel like we've been very successful doing so.
Follow-up question. Talk about some of the highlighted players you have on the list that you believe allowed you to get this ranking.
Well, again, it's tough for us and our taking stars these days with all the rankings that come out. And so, obviously, the ones that people were looking first are the ones who garnered a lot of stars, 247 or Rivals, those types of websites. But, jumping off one of the guys who most excited about, obviously, John Hope, who's a transfer from Kansas State, a three-star recruit coming out of high school. The guy that we're very familiar with because he's fortunate enough to coach those brothers, Darian Hope, during our time at Prairie. And so, whenever you lose a player of Ryan Stanley's caliber, you want to try to find a guy who can come in and compete for that job right away. So, we're very excited about John, but we're also excited about the 5 offensive linemen we're ready to sign. One did a transfer, Orlando Higgs from Wake Forest, and the other 4 guys in high school, offensive linemen, one from right here in Tallahassee, Michael Brown, Evan Webster was a guy that was committed to South Florida for about half a year. Delonis Kabir was a young man who was committed to Central Florida for a long time. And then Kadesh Cunningham was actually our first commit, was a guy who came out of summer camp last year and really did a great job. So those are the guys who probably most
So let Charles follow up with the question, if you would.
Yeah, Coach, I saw you did a yeoman's job in terms of replenishing that offensive line, but it was the defensive backfield that really kind of caught my eye. Kind of talk about those guys, Benjamin Onwuzo, and of course, I love this guy, Trey Bishop.
Well, the unique thing about Florida A&M, being in the state of Florida and being one of only two scholarship FCS programs, is that we kind of get lucky, so to speak. There's a ton of skilled guys in this league. You look at it from Pensacola all the way down to Miami. You can find a 6-foot, 190-pound guy that runs, sub 4.5. And so what happens a lot of times is you'll have these guys who have a lot of offers coming out going into their senior year. Benjamin Onwuzo was a guy who had probably 16 FBS offers, 12 of them being Power 5. He was committed to Minnesota for much of his senior season. Decided not to sign early in the early signing period, and then because of I guess them filling up spots and other people thinking that he was going there, he was kind of left looking. And so we recruited him the whole time, and really built a great relationship with his mom. He's African. He has an African mother. She doesn't know much about the recruiting process, so she really was just looking for someone who really cared about them and would be honest with them and upfront, and that she felt comfortable taking care of her son. And we were able to do that. So kind of the same thing with Jaleel Core. He's a very similar situation, had a lot of offers going into his senior year as well. And so kind of the same thing. We just stayed in there with those guys, and they're both really good football players. Probably not the prototypical size-wise. Jaleel's a 5'10 and a half, 5'11" safety, nickelback, and Benjamin Onwuzo's a 5'11", 175, 180 pound corner / nickel. So, sometimes people look for a lot bigger, longer DBs, but they're really, really good football players who may just be an inch shorter or maybe a 10 slow on the 40-yard dash than being a Power 5 guy, but nevertheless, great football players, and we're very excited to have them coming into the program.
Coach, let me ask this question because you've been very good at recruiting, especially on this FCS level. But what kind of goes into cultivating relationships with parents or the people who are closest to these athletes?
Well, my secret has always been win the mama. If you can win the mama over, you probably got a really good shot. Most of these guys are mama's boys. I was a mama's boy, during my recruiting time. And but if you can convince mom that you're going to take care of her son, you got a really good shot. Most of the time, dad, if he's around, he wants to talk more about the football aspect. He wants to know how you're going to get his son prepared for the next level. Get him to the NFL. Yeah, you will have dads who ask about the academic part, but mainly those are the mother's questions. Academically, how are you going to get your son to graduate? How are you going to develop him into a man? And I think that's what we really emphasize more so than the football aspect, because this program is built around player development, around developing young men to become the future leaders of tomorrow. And so we try to find as many ways as we can to show the parents that if they trust us enough with their sons to come to Florida A&M in this program, that by the time they leave in 3, 4, 5 years, that they'll be a man that they can be proud of, that can go out into the world and take on the challenges that lay ahead, and they can end up being a great father, a great husband, a great leader, a great church member, and all the things that you send your sons off to college to accomplish.
One of the things we've kind of talked about in terms of the influence of junior colleges, especially within the FCS recruiting sphere, whereas you see a lot of JUCOs are able to kind of pick off players that maybe Florida A&M or Jackson State or Grambling might have gotten off jump 20 years ago. But what is your kind of, take on junior colleges in terms of where they fit within the recruiting circles now?
Well, I think a lot of it is geographical. We don't battle that as much here. I think we lost one young man this recruiting cycle to a junior college, and he was a guy who had questionable grades. To begin with, he was going to be fired. So the junior colleges were recruiting him the entire time, as well as some Group of 5 and mid-major programs. But during our time in Mississippi, that was a huge problem for us. Obviously, when you have a state with 14 junior colleges in that state, that kind of is the I guess the rite of passage for many of those young men. They think if you're not going to Ole Miss or Mississippi State or even Southern Miss, a lot of times in their eyes, the next best option is going to the junior college. And so you have to, during our time at Alcorn, we found ourselves having to recruit against, Colin, against Pearl River, Gulf Coast, and Hines, and some of those schools. And it's kind of a catch-22 because at the end of the day, you got to go to Hines to recruit there.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely an interesting dynamic. And I think both Jay Hobson and Fred have done a phenomenal job of really cultivating those relationships with those junior college coaches. And because it is a tough thing to do, Texas wasn't as bad, even though they have a junior college league there in Texas. But fortunately for us, we don't really battle the junior colleges very much with guys who are going to be qualifiers coming out of high school. Typically, if it's a guy who's close or borderline academically, then he may double sign. But that's more of, I think, a Jackson State, Alcorn, Mississippi Valley, guys who recruit heavily in the state of Mississippi. I think they battle that a lot more than we do.
Sure thing.
With that, Coach, I want to follow up with a couple of questions, recruiting, and then just the overall philosophy of your football program at this state, and then more so open it up to the program to some degree, a little bit about the MEAC. With that said, what other things do you think is important to get out there with your rattlers that are listening in and just HBCU fans and general football fans, particularly in terms of the recruiting component and how it breathes life into your program?
Well, I think the key thing to remember or to really pay attention to, and this is really for all my HBCU listeners out there, and I tell my alumni everywhere I go to speak to them, is the role that they play in the recruit process. We have social media, you have the technology, the information age that's out there. Information is a lot more accessible than it was back when I was coming out, back in those days doing recruiting. But one thing that hasn't changed, word of mouth is still a very, very strong aspect of recruiting. And so, when we as HBCUs have enough challenges in and of itself, there are a lot of negative stereotypes that we already have to face or overcome, and just in general. And so when young men who are looking to go to the next level or look for a school that can give them the opportunities that they look for, a lot of times we find ourselves having to dispel a lot of myths about our program. I know we battled that at Alcorn, we battled that at Prairie View A&M, we battled it here now at Florida A&M. Whereas a lot of times we'll talk to a young man and he'll tell us that a coach or somebody in the community or somebody investing in the recruit process will tell him that we're a party school, and that's probably the number one thing that we hear. And I'm sure if you ask any HBCU head coach, they'll all tell you that we have to battle the myth that we're all quote unquote party school.
Stereotypes.
And yeah, exactly. The negative stereotypes around HBCUs. And so I tell them all the time.
We talked a little bit about that earlier.
Yeah, I went to a PWI. I went to Clemson, and so U.S. News and World Report ranked basically every component that you can think of when it comes to colleges.
Mm-hmm.
They rank academics, they rank social life, they rank social mobility. I mean, if you think of teacher ratios of students, you name it, they rank it. Well, they rank party schools as well. And so when I was at Clemson, and I love my alma mater, I rep it to the day I die, Clemson was the number 2 party school in the country. Right. back in 2002 when I was...
We ain't had nothing on that. I tried to tell them.
And so now, and the funny thing is, there wasn't an HBCU in the top 50.
Right.
But we the party.
But we the party schools. Exactly.
I mean, now, and I love Florida State. They're a school that's right across the street from us. They were ranked number 7. And so Bobby Bowles, Dabo Sweeney, Jimbo Fisher, they never have to go into a house and try to,
convince a mom, a dad.
In a party school. But
right.
The first thing we talk about when we go into a home is, well, I heard these guys just a party school. Like, where did that come from?
Didn't I told y'all about that data?
That data is something else, I tell you.
So it's really just the word of mouth. And the one thing that really helped us this year the success we had on the football field,
No
it
doubt.
got people talking good about Florida A&M again.
No doubt.
You know, because we hadn't done that in a long time. So guys in this state who have parents or sisters or neighbors or whoever that went to these HBCUs, now they hear good things about it. You know, and one quick story, and I know we're pressed for time, but we had a young man, our latest signee, Gentle Hunt, who's a 3-star D tackle from down there in Gainesville. Gentle's mom and both sisters graduated from Florida A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Both of his sisters are pharmacists. They make real good money.
Real good.
Mom's doing well. Dad graduated from Bethune. And so at the end of the recruiting process, he was all stressed out like most of these guys are because he had us and he had a lot of Group of 5 and mid-major, FCS, PWIs that were recruiting him as well. So at the 11th hour, he had all these people coming in telling him that, oh, well, Sam's not a good school. Sam's not a good school. I'm like, Gentle, you're going to literally let somebody tell you that
What you live in, though.
that gave both your sisters a pharmacy degree, gave your mother a degree, and they all doing well. You're going to let them tell you that that's not a good school. It's like, it's blasphemy to me. And these young men are so impressionable, and they're looking for answers and all those things. And so that's why it's critical for not only us as coaches and administrators, but as alumni and fans to talk good about our schools. And when you hear someone say something that's not true, combat that. Tell them right there in their face that is false. That is not true. You know, and that'll help us be able to continue to attract top-tier student athletes and students, because we do find ourselves having to battle a lot of those false myths, you know, that other PWIs just don't have to battle.
With that,
That's awesome.
let me roll off this list. Then this is just a brief list of some of the people I know. Dr. Reginald Todd, Florida A&M alumni. Dr. Keno Miller, just to give you more. Reggie Thomas, who is president of the Underdog and working in the IT industry, as well as my fraternity brother Byron Gauthier, doing really well. For Roy Evans, they were all really excited about your #1 class, and they made sure I knew. So I thought I'd give them a little love and shout them out there.
Hey, Rattler Nation is strong down in Houston now.
Yeah, it's deep. Now, these folks are little all over the country. Some of them around here, but some of them come in there. And let me make sure I talk about Dr. Jeremy Cheeks, who's co-authored a lot of my papers. He would
Better
be quite
believe it.
upset if
Yes,
I didn't make sure
indeed.
his name was mentioned in these list of lords of the folks. But just wanted to bring it out there. And since I'm talking about the brotherhood, I had to give shout out to your new athletic director, VP of Intercollegiate Athletics. Let me make sure I get it right, Brother Courtney Gosha, and his deputy AD, Florida A&M, Keith McClooney. Make sure you let the brothers know now. They need to come on this show. I know they busy, a lot of work, but you gonna need to get on here sometime, because he get hot out here. Don't be calling us later. Now, we try to give you space. But I say that all in kid because I do know Brother Courtney Gosha, and talked to him. Keith actually talked to him pretty recently. So just wishing them well. Let them know we respect what they're doing and want them to make sure they got a good shout out. Let me also make sure I put the plug in for Marcus Green. But when I say this, last question I got for you before I let you go, a bigger macro question in regards to this. And I'm not talking about this in terms of all the shade that you talk about out there, but seriousness, with North Carolina A&T, obviously with their announcement to leave the MEAC in terms of going to the Big South. In terms of FAMU, I know a lot of this is about taking care of your business, the pride in the MEAC that you all have as you were in there, but talk about, does that really change anything from the perspective, as you know, the MEAC, or specifically even more so with Florida A&M University?
Well, I'm not sure if it changes the MEAC as much. You know, I think Dr. Dennis Thomas, our commissioner, you know, obviously when you are in a league or have a league of strong, not only athletic teams, but academic teams, universities, I'm sure that that's something that you have to plan and prepare for.
Right.
And with what happened, you know, with Hampton the year before, you know, I'm sure Dr. Thomas has a plan as a way to keep this conference strong and viable. I'm sure he's looking at maybe other, you know, schools to maybe add to the conference, whether it be schools from the CIAA or SIAC, and we've had that in the past, Savannah State, Winston-Salem State. Bowie State's a team that's doing extremely well in football as of late, Virginia State. So I think there are a lot of HBCUs.
So you do your homework too. I like that. Go ahead, Coach.
I hear you, Coach.
I think there are a lot of HBCUs who have the blueprint to make that transition, and so, again, it's all about strategy. You and I have talked on multiple occasions about having a strategic plan of how to grow your respective universities, how to grow our respective conferences, and to continue to boost and build the MEAC and the SWAC. I think there are two leagues that need to stick around. I think they've done a ton for intercollegiate athletics. They've done a ton for African Americans and non-African Americans. And so our history, to me, is second to none when you're talking about the 1AA or FCS level. And so I think, we all have to try to do what's best for our respective institutions.
Certainly.
Our respective athletic department, and to each his own. Again, we're going to do the same thing we did in the past. We're going to play the teams that are on our schedule. We're going to schedule out in the future and just try to build a schedule that maximizes our growth potential and revenue. And we're going to go out and try to compete for championships. And so, but I do have confidence in our administration. Our court negotiator, like you said, our president, Dr. Larry Robinson, and even Dr. Thomas. I hadn't had an opportunity to speak with him. I will in a couple of weeks when we head up to the head coaches meeting, but I've spoken to other coaches around the league, and I don't think that there's a need to panic at this point because one of our member schools has decided to move on. They're not the first. Tennessee State is a part of a PWI conference in Hampton as well. So I don't know if that will be the trend moving forward. Again, that's not my concern. My concern is making sure that Florida A&M is in a great position academically and athletically so that we can continue to do what we need to do, which is go out and recruit the best and the brightest to give our student athletes a chance to compete for championships on the field and graduate our student athletes in the classroom. So that's my stand, and if I was at A&T, I'd probably have a little bit more to say about that, but right now I'm the head coach of Florida A&M, and I'm going to focus on what these Rattlers do and keep making sure that we can continue to sign top-ranked recruiting classes and compete for national championships.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate you giving us a voice from inside one of the HBCUs from a head coaching perspective, certainly on the number one ranked HBCU class, top 10 class at the FCS level according to Heroes. So I wanted to say thank you for taking the time and giving us a bigger perspective because a lot of people have questions. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, oftentimes when people have these questions, those in leadership positions don't always want to be on the clock. And I think part of you being able to have the luxury about being a leader is also being around when tough times are afforded to you and needing to answer those questions and in some ways reassure your constituents, your fan base in regards to what are your plans, what are you doing, even if you don't necessarily have the direct answer at that time. And the fact that you talked about strategic planning, I can appreciate that. So hopefully we have a chance to talk a little more, again, offline. If I can be of any assistance to your program, the conference, I always know that I'm less than a telephone call away to be supportive in all the ways possible. With that, thank you for your time, Coach, and I want to say go Rattlers.
Go
Congratulations
Rattlers.
On
Thank
that class, and we will be down there this year. We're going to find a way to make it happen. I'm going to probably try to sneak over when you have to come down over here in the SWAC in Baton Rouge. So don't get mad if we shaking your hand but kind of looking at your slide eye.
But you know what? You better book your hotels now.
Oh, we already have.
Yeah,
see,
I
you
heard.
know me. I done already booked. I already booked them. And then we probably try to find a way to get to the Florida Classic. So we gonna see. Y'all say it's all that. It's been a while, but I'm gonna see if I can get back.
Well, I mean, we're trying to get them JSU Tigers back on the schedule. So
now we talking.
Coach, I was waiting on it, Coach.
Coach, now you in 2021, you got room for it.
Yes,
hey,
indeed.
We got room.
Well, we've enjoyed our time in Tallahassee, Coach.
Oh man, shots fired. This is good. This is getting good. Thank you, Coach. Take care.
Appreciate you, Coach.
I'll see y'all.
All right.
So you heard it from Coach in terms of recruiting classes. I said we're going to make sure that you did get some football talk in there. Give me a couple of minutes just to finish up on the strategic plan as people were talking about acknowledging. See if we can get back to some comments. And so one of the other things is I talked about the institutional characteristics and the local market characteristics. As I said, 13 different characteristics where we ranked, analyzed from all the schools. We looked at the SWAC, the MEAC, the Sun Belt, Southland Conference, regional schools, and even did a little stretch with Conference USA. And this was done about 10 years ago prior to what you saw, the movement into the Power 5 conferences they put forth with the playoffs at the bowl level. And we looked at ranking HBCUs at the National University according to Washington Monthly, Clark Atlanta, FAMU, Jackson State, North Carolina, A&T, Howard, Morgan State, South Carolina State, Tennessee State. And this was looking at reclassifying HBCUs, potentially looking at creating the FBS conference. We looked at HBCU master universities at the Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Auburn State, Grambling State, Prairie View A&M, Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, Savannah State, and Southern, to name a few of them. So you can already see in terms of the regionality. But one thing that I kind of wanted to bring up with that is I had put out there for a couple of those that were asking me directly, my thoughts in regards to how this was coming together. And I was talking about critical race theory and my thoughts on CRT. And so just wanted to give some people some insight on that, what that is, and particularly what I was looking at are tenets of critical race theory that comes out of a social science, coming out really the law area that talks about the impediments of race and how embedded it is in the system. And so the particular components and tenets I was looking at is the 32 in American society, whiteness can be considered a property interest. As a result, this notion operates on different levels. These include the right of possession, the right of use and enjoyment, the right of disposition, and the right of exclusion. Historically, the idea whiteness as a property norm has been perpetuated as an asset that only white individuals can possess. In a lot of ways, you see that taking place in this move, as I illustrated, for those that were considering it. When you don't put these characteristics out there to show something, because whiteness happens to be a property norm, a lot of people see whiteness as right. We see it in some of the colloquium terms when you talk about the white ISIS cooler, grass green over there type of things. The fourth one, quickly, is the tenet for entrance conversion. So historically, we know at one time you couldn't even get African Americans to play at what I refer to as historically white college universities. I don't call them PWIs because it allows them to get away from the normative as if they have changed their framework. They were historically white colleges, just like historically black colleges. The only thing is historically white colleges refuse to allow people of color, specifically African Americans, into their institutions. But things change when you look at these, what we call entries of civil rights legislation, which is exemplified in affirmative action and diversity initiatives, meaning that when you talked about desegregated schools, that you saw busing, but it was African Americans, black kids going from black neighborhoods to white spaces. So this is what I frame this when I'm talking about the fact that everybody seems that this is positive because a black institution is going into this white space, this white conference, this white association, affiliated with these other white institutions, except for Hampton when they did it. So you don't even take the time to ask yourself, what are these characteristics that people are talking about of why it should be a better move? You don't even acknowledge that. You don't even see that. All you see in your mind is that this is a white conference, this is whiteness, so it has to be better, it has to be right. And so that's the point where I said that don't let yourself be fooled in this. Ask the tough questions. Ask the questions of assertion. What are the characteristics? What are the sentiments and statements that suggest that you're right? So with that, we'll get back to a little more basketball. Sylvia's not dead. So let me get you the top 5 rankings as we coming up at the top of the hour with the interview and all the information here. This time has really passed pretty fast. So first, nobody dropped out of the women's poll this week. It was close. North Carolina stays there, and Southern is gaining a lot of momentum, sitting outside the poll at 10 and 12, 8 and 3. North Carolina A&T State Aggies split this weekend, so they're 16-7, 8-3. They remain at number 5 with 43 points. At number 4, Texas Southern Tigers 13-8, 8-2. Lost to the rivalry 61, but had 5 players out and still had a lead late in that game. Looked like they were going to be able to get it done. In some minds, still at victory base with all those disposition of players that weren't playing, but couldn't quite hold on to get it done. Prairie View gets the victory. Kudos to them. So Texas Southern falls 2 spaces to 61, but they're still in the top 5. Bringing us to number 3. Norfolk State Spartanettes 14-8, 8-1, 2 first place votes, 75 points. They remain at number 3. Switching places between Texas Southern, now moving up to number 2, is Bethune Cookman Lady Wildcats. They got that victory over North Carolina A&T State Aggies, solid victory that pushes them all the way up to number 2 spots, 17-5 on the season overall, 9-1 in the conference race in the MEAC, 3 first place votes, 94 points. As I said, previous ranked number 4. At number 1, Jackson State Lady Tigers 13-8, 11-0, 5 first place votes, 106 points. They remain at number 1, continue to get it done. 2 big victories, including a victory over the rivals, both games in this matchup in terms of Alcorn State in-state rival, and then they go out of state, the big rival in a lot of people's eyes, as they get it done against Southern, and had to come from behind at home to get it done. So kudos in terms of what goes on there. Tell me a little bit about the top 5 women. What are your thoughts on this in week number 6?
Well, first and foremost, huge win for Bethune-Cookman over North Carolina A&T. But you got a big weekend this weekend. Jackson State, the Lady Tigers, they get ready to do their Texas 2-step. Texas Southern should get a couple players back this weekend, so that Saturday matchup will be huge. And then we always talk about Monday Night Madness when they have to go to, I think, one of the most hostile environments in the SWAC, going to Prairie View. So this will be a tough weekend, tough challenge for the Jackson State Lady Tigers. So I'm looking forward to it this weekend, that 1 versus 4 matchup.
Yeah, both sides, women and men, but we'll get in there a little bit.
The HBCU report, and right now you're inside the HBCU Sports Lab with my guy. All hail the dean of HBCU Sports. You know I named him that. Dr. Kenyatta Kabil, my guy. What's happening, man?
With that, let me give you top 5, and it looks like you got some news that you want to get out there, break, or get out there, one or the other. So let me give you top 5 of the men, then we'll let you break it. We do have a new team in the top 5. Somebody dropped out this week. So let's see what we got here. Receiving votes: Norfolk State Spartans 11-13, 7-2. Still on the outside looking in. Southern Jaguars 10-14, 7-4. They were on a run. They'd won 6 games in a row, but then they stumbled as they got on the road and lost 2 straight, including a tough one against Jackson State last night. They ended up taking it to them. So it'll be interesting there in terms of what's going on. Dropping out this week, none other than the home team for us right here is Texas Southern Tigers 10-13, 7-3. Dropped out of the poll this week. So let's see who jumps in as number 5, North Carolina A&T State Aggies, sitting at 12-14, 8-3, 54 points. And number 4, Norfolk State Spartans, sitting at 11-13, 7-2. As I said, they're on outside, but they're actually in the top 5. They're the team that jumped in over Texas Southern, 62 points. Were not ranked last week. At number 3, you have Tennessee State Tigers, 15-10, 7-5. They had a chance, as you said, to make a statement. They got one of them. But couldn't get the other one against the top-ranked Murray State team that came in. Kept it close for most of the game, but Murray State pulled away late to get it done. But Tennessee State drops 1 spot due to that 1-1 split this weekend, 81 points, dropping from the new number 2 spot. Hot team in the MEAC. North Carolina Central Eagles 12-12, 8-2. Mouton always finds a way to get his team playing some good basketball for conference, and he finds a way to just time it right. Because his team is accelerating.
The Eagle push.
Yes, get it done. 4 first place votes, 94 points. Ranked 5th previously, jumping up 3 spots, and here they are. Number 1, new number 1, Prairie View A&M University, 12-11, 8-2, 5 first place votes, 1 and 2 points. Previously ranked 4, move up 3 spots to get to the number 1 ranking with a lot of the splits this week. They took on a top 5 matchup within Texas Southern University, fighting for number 1 in the SWAC men's side at that time. They get it done. Pull away late in the game to win by 10. Shout out to Jimmy, who said it would be a 10-point victory. Nailed it on the head. So, number 1, Prairie View A&M vaults to top of the poll rankings in week number 6 with a record of 12-11, 8-2, 5 first place. 102. They're trying to show that last year was not an accident. Obviously, you couldn't say that with the record they had, 17-1.
Right.
But they find a way to stick right around. Really talented team. Shoot the mid-range we talked about. Amazing how they get it done. And then they are still getting good play on the defensive side of the ball. But it was an electric atmosphere at Prairie View.
Mm-hmm.
Turning out the lights, to drop the banners.
That was nice.
That was really
well
nice.
Done.
With
well
lights
done.
on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the team did not let them down as they got it done. And so they get the sweep against the Tigers. A little help with the women not being able to play that game for the Tigers, but Prairie View and the Panthers get it done both on the men's and women's side. But what do you think about the top 5 rankings on the men?
Well deserving for Prairie View. You talk about 2 capable scorers in Gerard Andrus and Devontae Patterson, and then I've watched Williamson really get it done off the bench. He can really score the ball. Tennessee State, they got the split. Austin Peay, they got the victory against Austin Peay. Couldn't quite pull it off against Murray State. Difficult weekend for North Carolina A&T. Went 0-2 over the weekend, so they dropped in the rankings. But you got a great matchup. We talked about on the women's side, Jackson State coming to town to do the Texas two-step. But Jackson State, one of the hotter teams in the SWAC right now. They won 5 in a row, and they Texas Southern on Saturday, Prairie View on Monday. So it should be some great basketball here in Houston over the weekend.
Definitely great comments out there. Keep them coming. Give them back to you all day. Certainly talked about Michael Lee, his comments talking about that he said that this was happening with the Celebration Bowl. He seemed to be right on point. Lonnie Shaw adds, Chancellor Martin's vision is to be the very best first HBCU to reach FBS level. Big South is just a stepping stone. No doubt about it. And I actually applauded North Carolina A&T in looking at being the FBS when they challenged it. But try to tell me that the Big South is a stepping stone is a hard sell to me. And if it is the case, just tell the people that.
Yeah.
Just tell the people that our ultimate goal is to be FBS. We think we're in position to do that, and we think moving into the Big South will position us better to get that done based on the landscape of the country. Don't have a problem with that. But that is not what he said.
Right. That's a little more transparency if you do it that way.
That's not what he said.
Right.
So I can't give you credit for something that you didn't say when you had a chance to tell everybody in the world, not these back channels to different folks that are carrying your water. And as I said, there's still people at A&T that didn't know what was going on, so it doesn't work for me in that regards. A&T will be a FBS division program in 4 years, still in HBCU Aggie Pride. Never said they weren't an HBCU, certainly believe Aggie Pride, and we'll see if FBS division program in 4 years is the power. I'm just saying that tell everybody that. Tell your chancellor to tell people that. Tell your chancellor to tell what the plan is to the stakeholders, because all your stakeholders don't know. So it doesn't make sense to me, because to go FBS, you're going to need everybody on the same page, as I said earlier, to do that. And to suggest that Big South is going to get you there just doesn't add up, doesn't make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense in terms of somebody that studies athletics, not just somebody that is a fan of athletics, but as a professor of sport management, sports studies, now moving in sports communication and looking at a joint venture that does research on this, does consulting work on this. Trust me, you can't just talk to me.
Right. This is class 101. This is what I just finished going through in the sports studies, sports leadership program. So.
I appreciate you, Charles, for doing it, but just wanted the people to know. With that, we're going to close it up. Thank you for giving us a little extra time there. Hot and Heavy Show.
Let me give it real quick. Chennis Berry, he was named the head coach at Benedict today. Of course, he's the former offense coordinator at Southern, so he gets an opportunity to take over the program.
Appreciate that information. Dockerville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, presented by Amber Slaughter, the project architect. Amber Slaughter, the project architect, where they handle the project planning, project development, project execution, and team management. So you can run your business. Contact Amber Slaughter, the project architect, at www.theprojectarchitect.com to schedule an appointment. www.theprojectarchitect.com. I am Dr. Kenyatta Coville, the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. As we come to a close, we hope you enjoyed our lecture today. Our guest interview with Coach Willie Simmons of Florida A&M Rattlers, the #1 ranked recruiting class, HBCU program's top 10 program in terms of the FCS. North Carolina was not that. The Big South hasn't done it yet for them.
Not yet.
Maybe if they announced it earlier, it would help with the recruiting class.
Get out the vacuum.
Again, we can thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday right here from 6 to 7. KCOH 1230 AM in Houston, Texas. KCOH The Source. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Course Lecture